Yeah. Are they going to allow anybody to speak? Or?
Just select people. So the mayor has a list apparently of people he's going to call on.
So, any idea like how they were selected? I mean,
no, I think probably just. I think it's more the influential members from the community. So like Charlie Pearson, I'm on the list. Michael Patton is on the list because he has the conservation easement. So I think it's those types of things.
Versus take a little bit more of the emotion of people like now.
Yeah,
that was more them writing their letters to the city.
Yeah, and not a lot of like data center facts and pollution and all this stuff. More like summarize. Yep. So fine.
Call the Sand Springs City Council meeting dated February 3rd, 2026 to order. Janice, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Stuckey.
Here.
Councilor Jackson.
Here.
Councilor Burge.
Here.
Mayor Spoon.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hall.
Here.
Councilor Barnett.
Here.
Councilor Wilson.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
As mayor, it is my intention to conduct this meeting smoothly and have it wrapped up in a couple of hours. The City of Sand Springs has already had the required public hearing planning commission meeting listed for over 3 hours and a public comment meeting in less than 3 hours. We've also been receiving written public comments since November. Councilors have been contacted by the public directly to express concerns and support. Additionally, we've heard from numerous subject matter experts as part of the planning commission process. Sand Springs, our city council are all elected volunteers. Every member on this council present tonight has the interests of Sand Springs as a whole in mind. We intend to be respectful to all attending and expect no less in return. We're not going to allow character insults directed at anyone. This includes cross-talking, interjecting comments, or any form of heckling. If in the opinion of the chair, which is me, someone or some persons are violating our rules of conduct, they will be warned, and if the behavior persists, the chair will request an officer handle the matter as he sees fit. I only say this because sometimes passions run high, and for the sake of everyone attending, we want to conduct ourselves in a civil manner. I think there's a number of people here that would like to be a part of this meeting and see it progress calmly. Next, the council is here to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission related to the listed land use requests. On the agenda is a zoning ordinance to rezone the subject property from agricultural to industrial with a planned unit development overlay. Additionally, there is a resolution on the agenda to modify the land use designation map of the comprehensive plan. The process will be this. Brad Bates, our city planner, will provide a staff report. He will outline the application that has been submitted, give some guidance about the procedures and rules. The council may have questions for him. The applicant and or representatives of the property owner will make a presentation about what's being requested, and board members may have questions for those persons. Public input, as I have already said, we have had the public hearing. We will now allow public input, starting with some of those closest to the project. We've had Michael Patton with Land Legacy request to talk. Then we'll let Charlie Pearson, Kyle Schmidt, a member of the Ingram family, a representative of the Blevins family, and then if we feel that if any speaker has not spoken to the council or the Planning Commission before, if they have anything different they would like to add, then we would welcome their comments. All these comments will be allowed about 3 minutes. And now I'll remind the council that these are the issues that we're here to consider making this determination. Location and access, the proximity of roads and traffic, zoning district details. The applicant is requesting light industrial with a PUD, so comments about the zoning and use are appropriate as they relate to this location. Impact on surroundings, assess visual impact, buffering, noise, odor, and potential effects on nearby residential and commercial zones requiring of setbacks or enclosed operations. Infrastructure and utilities, availability and capacity of roads, water, sewer, and energy are relevant. Local regulations and permits, requirements for building height, fencing, security, and how those issues are addressed in the PUD. Okay, we'll move forward. As we do those comments, we'll shoot for 3 minutes, and we'll move forward now with item number on the agenda is item 3, ordinance number 1442 pertaining to zoning case SSZ 517 and planned unit development PUD 039. And Brad Bates there.
Good evening, Council. As we did at the Planning Commission, since there are numerous items on this agenda and they're all related, I'm going to speak to them all in one flail swoop to try to keep it expedient, so that way you can move on to the applicant and to public comment. Tonight before you is ordinance 1442 pertaining to the Sand Springs zoning case SSZ 517 to rezone approximately 826 acres from AG to IL with a planned unit development overlay, PUD 039. The property is located at approximately 56th Street North and Highway 97 in Osage County. The property was annexed into the city limits on June 23rd, 2025 by the City Council. At the time, the property was zoned AG in accordance with the city ordinances regarding annexation and zoning. The applicant was fully aware of the property was AG at that time and would have to go through a public process for rezoning the property at a later date should any sort of development necessitate the need. That is why we are here today. The Sand Springs Planning Commission heard the applications for SSZ 517 and PUD 039 at the Special Planning Commission held on January 27th, 2026. At the meeting, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the applications 6-1. All staff recommendations, reports, letters, petitions, etc. are all in your backup material provided to you today. A petition was filed under the filed in accordance with Oklahoma Statutes 1143-105 to require approval of the zoning request to be approved by a favorable vote of 3/4 of all members of the municipal governing body. City Legal has reviewed the issue and is able to address if necessary. There's also a copy of that petition in your backup material today. There was lengthy discussion about the conservation easement that is on the property between staff, planning commission members, the applicant, and even input from the easement holder, Land Legacy. The easement is currently, in its current form and status, is not set to have, in its current status, is not set to be infringed upon or impeded in any way. If approved, the easement will have to be identified on a plat and recorded along with all other known easements and encumbrances that might affect the ability to construct on the site. Additionally, the property owner and Land Legacy, if there are any issues, will have to resolve those issues as a matter of civil between themselves. At the meeting, the rezoning case presented information regarding the following: infrastructure such as water rights, the City of Sand Springs' ability to serve the project. It was noted that initial phases of the development would not utilize water for cooling purposes, but instead for domestic use only. Traffic information was provided about the current state of Highway 97, with comments related to the width, traffic volume, maintenance responsibilities, and the roadway classifications. Electricity information was provided, and PSO is here tonight to speak to that further should you have any questions in that regard. Environmental wastewater information was provided regarding the need for all federal, state, and local requirements for permitting and for indirect and direct discharges. Additionally, information was provided regarding the need to follow all permitting requirements for stormwater mitigation in accordance with Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality and local regulations. Information was provided regarding noise, vibrations that are anticipated by the development of the site. The applicant is here along with subject matter experts to address these concerns. Emissions and requirements for permitting were presented and discussed. The applicant can elaborate on the process that is required for any data center reuse. Buffers were discussed, which are added additional protection in the way of setbacks, landscaping, preservation of existing vegetation. This is covered and called out by the PUD presented by the Planning Commission, or to the Planning Commission, and will be addressed by the applicant in further detail. PUD 039 was presented to the Planning Commission. The PUD set forth restrictions on other uses allowed in the underlying industrial zoning category. The PUD further defined what a data center is and ancillary uses that would be allowed along with it. The PUD addressed the following things. The PUD set a max floor area ratio of 20%. The PUD included setbacks from various property lines. The applicant will address that in their presentation. It set maximum height limitations of 40 feet with ancillary equipment to be allowed to be taller. The applicant will address that as well. There are standards for security, fencing, and screening that will be covered in their presentation. The PUD set forth the preservation of natural areas, landscape areas. This will be discussed more by the applicant. The PUD set forth sign standards, but staff revised the sign standards to only allow west-facing wall signs no more than 2 square feet per linear wall, and to prohibit pole signs and ground signs, but allow 1 monument sign to be allowed not more than 20 feet tall, not to exceed 2 square feet of linear frontage, and a max of 200 square feet of signage. The PUD has requirements for lighting and usage of lights. The applicant will cover in more detail. Noise levels are addressed in the PUD with a 65 decibel max. The applicant will cover additional information, but also their mandatory reporting that they have self-imposed on themselves. If approved as part of the PUD process, the applicant or developer will be required to submit detailed plans for approval prior to approval of the building permit. Detailed plans include a site plan, sign plan, landscape plan, lighting plan, building elevations, noise studies, and a PUD subdivision plat, and other plans that the Planning Commission, or in this case council, may require of them. The comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is also before you tonight. This would change the land use designation on the city's land use map from residential to industrial regional employment. Sand Springs Planning Commission heard SSCPA 007 at the Planning Commission meeting held on January 27, 2026. At the Planning Commission meeting, The planning commission voted recommend approval of the application 6-1 to the council. There is in the backup material for you very detailed information about the comprehensive plan amendment, of which many of the things in there speak to the comprehensive plan needing to be adjusted from time to time, that it's not an inflexible document. Talks about the need for us being a stable economy, a stable city that's not reliant on others, whether that be by attracting industry and other businesses. All these things were found by the Planning Commission to be consistent with the plan in support of their land use change. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing no questions, thank you. I believe the next is a presentation by the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, my name's Lou Reynolds. My address is 2727 East 21st Street. Mr. Bates is loading my slide deck here. I'm about to do it. So next one, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a little bit rehashed, and I apologize for that, but this is the map of this project site. It was 827 acres plus or minus. We're located generally east and north of West 56th Street North and Highway 97. And the next map thing that I want to show you is part of our utilities on this site. And the thing I want to talk about this infrastructure is the property is crisscrossed by two high voltage electrical transmission lines that are owned by PSO. And one of the lines, the one that goes kind of southwesterly northeasterly, is 345 kilovolts, and the other one that's north-south up toward the northwest corner is 138 kilovolts. With these transmission lines, primarily it'll be the 345 one, together with the system enhancements that will be paid for by Google, PSO will serve this project. As a result of the project, the electrical grid in this area will be strengthened and will be made more resilient, all of which will benefit not just the project but the area, and none of that will be at any cost to the residential ratepayers. All those costs will be borne by Google. And this is an opportunity to go into the comprehensive plan part of my presentation. So at the time that this property was annexed into the city limits, there was no planning study or no determination was made as to what the planning designations should be of this property. So more or less by default, this property was designated to be agricultural residential under an 11-year-old comprehensive plan. And, you know, historically, comprehensive planning failed to recognize the benefits of electrical transmission lines to the community. Your comprehensive plan existing today makes no mention of it. Your planner would say he's never known when to do it. I hadn't heard of it until recently. And but today, we know that electrical transmission lines are impactful on the as expressways on the development pattern of the city. And we also know that electrical transmission lines are the electrical expressway that power the electrical distribution network for the city as well, for the entire community. So, kind of simply put, cities cannot grow without properly evaluating and receiving the full benefits of these electrical transmission lines. And in the past, this property, and today, the property is accessed by Highway 97. Highway 97 is a primary arterial and major collector on the city's major street highway plan. The comprehensive plan designates Highway 97 as a transportation corridor, and Highway 97 has historically supported industrial development in Sand Springs. In this particular case, IL zoning overlaid with a PUD to utilize the electrical transmission lines on the property for a data center. Not only is consistent with the comprehensive plan, it's consistent with your zoning code, and it's in the best interest of the city and its citizens. So,
That's 3 minutes.
I'll give you some details. So, in this concept, this is our development area map, and this big spot in the middle of the property, we call this the donut hole. in the development business, and in our donut hole, we start out with that and say anywhere in that pink spot we can build a building. But we further limit that to PUD. We restrict the building area of this property to 0.20 floor area ratio, or 20% of the property. So we can only build buildings covering 20% of the property. Your IL zoning allows a 0.75 floor area ratio. And IL zoning in your code is structured so that it's appropriate against residential property. So the remainder of this property will be used for building setbacks, open space, landscaping, enhanced landscaping and tree outside of that pink area. And in the eastern edge of the property, kind of the south half, I want to show you that brown spot. We're not developing in that. One of our maps has a wrong color in there, but we're not going east, so that setback's going to be really large. So the setback along Highway 97 is 400 feet, and inside that setback there's a 100-foot landscape buffer. All the rest of the property has that 100-foot landscape buffer. It has at least a 300-foot building setback, except right along the south and westerly 3,500 feet of the property. That's got a 200-foot landscape buffer, and it's enhanced with some additional items that I'll discuss with you later. We also have a 700-foot electrical generator buffer from the nearest resident in this property. So when you combine them, this is what our pink donut hole looks. So buildings can go in there. You can see the brown, which is open space. We do our best to stay out of that and leave it in a natural state. And then you see the yellow and green ring around that. It's our landscape buffer. Let's see. This is our conceptual site plan. There's several details that I want our civil engineer, Brent Massey, to provide you with. So I'm going to skip over that and just real quickly and reserve that for Brent. And importantly, we tried to listen. We had a neighborhood meeting. We invited people within 900 feet or 1,000 feet of the project. We continue to talk to people that object to this project. We talked to Osage County officials, Tulsa County officials, Incom, city officials, state officials. We've talked to anybody that'll listen, and we tried to.
Mr. Reynolds, hold on just a second.
Yes.
We won't have that. The applicant is not limited by time, by president, because they're telling us, they're actually, this, as a point of information, this is a presentation to the city council, and you're welcome to watch. There's no requirement for public to speak. We allow you to speak because we want to hear what you have to say, but this is a meeting for the city council. And again, it can be a really short meeting if you don't participate. Please work with us so we can all hear what you have to say.
What about the impact on the wildlife?
Okay, Mr. Reynolds, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we modified our PUD based on things that we had learned. And these are basically added restrictions to how we can develop and use this property. So the first one was we reduced the floor area ratio, how big the buildings could be that we built on the property, from 0.75, which is allowed by right now zoning, to 0.20. So it's less than 20%. We reduced our parking lot size. We heard concerns about stormwater runoff. We originally had one parking space, 10,000 square feet. We would reduce it to one parking space for 20,000 square feet. We increased our building setbacks on the project from 200 feet to 300 feet. We adjusted our security fences where we agreed that it must be at least 200 feet from the project boundary. We also agreed it has to be behind what we call the imperial facility side of the landscape buffer. So this will get into that enhanced buffer that's 200 feet along the southerly 3,500 feet of the property. We added screening for our mechanical equipment. So the must be screened so it cannot be visible from a project boundary. But importantly, the screening must be as tall as the tallest part of the equipment. This is not just a visual condition, but this affects potential sound generation, so we're doing everything we can to ensure we're below the 65 decibel. We added a backup, setback for the backup generators I mentioned earlier. We agreed that none of those would be within 700 feet of any existing resident. The natural area, we increased that to 300 feet around the project perimeter. Our landscape buffer, anywhere in that landscape buffer, the green or the yellow, it's not a full buffer, and there's some kind of a shortage of canopy, we'll plant a tree that's at least 8 feet high. This intensified landscape buffer along the south boundary that I talked to you about, we've agreed in the PUD to preserve existing vegetation. We've agreed that any tree we plant there will be 8 feet, at least 8 feet high, and it'll be evergreen. We also agreed where the canopy is sparse that we would build a berm that's at least 8 feet tall. Now, you probably don't talk about berms every day, but a little bit of engineering behind them. For every foot you go up, you go 3 feet out. So this berm will have at least a 24-foot base and be 8 feet high. There's two significant factors on that. Obviously, it will be a visual buffer, but its massing will also absorb sound. And again, we're doing what we can to make up for what's not there. And we also agreed that this, along those berms, there'll be a continuous vegetated barrier. Within 3 years will be a minimum of 8 feet tall after installation. We're going to do everything we can to make that grow. We've submitted the city plan. It's in the upper right-hand corner. There's what one of those looks like, and how it would fit in. And you can see that the landscaping buffer is sparse there, and we're filling into it. And we stagger our evergreen trees in that pattern. We're trying to really buffer this in every way that we can practical. We had lighting. We had lots of discussion about lighting. And we had we had lighting restrictions in the PUD to start with. We've added that all of our lighting will be hooded and directed downward. There'll be no light above the horizontal plane, and we'll just use warm spectrum LEDs and that work at a temperature of 3,000 Kelvin or less. Now, this isn't exactly the perfect definition of dark sky, but this is all the specific things that make up dark sky. We don't want to use the words dark sky because that term will change and what it means, but this is really close to dark sky light. So we talked about noise in the PUD. We started out with a 65 decibel limit. We've also added that our generator testing would only be limited to daytime hours. We also agreed that post-construction noise studies would be required after we bring each building online. We've agreed to annual sound monitoring and noise studies required for 3 years after the last building is built. We also agreed to provide the city with a noise study anytime the city would request it. And we've agreed to the penalties that the city has for enforcement of a violation of any of its rules, which these zoning standards would be. They are the law governing the use of this property. We also agreed, because we heard issues about stormwater, we agreed that there will be a stormwater pollution prevention plan. It must be approved by the city prior to the issuance of any permit. So no permit until we get that. It's got to be approved by the city. And our stormwater pollution prevention plan must comply with all the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality Regulations. I kind of wanted to show you, this is the property I can get on, but this is at the southeast corner of the property. You can see our building because of our driveway. If our driveway wasn't there, you couldn't see our buildings from the southwest corner. You go a little north on Highway 97 and you come to PSO's electrical transmission line right away. And you can see our building way in the back there. After that, you go north a little further, you look back to the east, northeast, you can't see our building. You go further north, you look back to the east, you can't see our building. You go to the northwest corner of the property, you look back to the southeast, you can't see our building. So we've done everything we can to buffer this, to soften this, both sound, light. We've agreed to these standards. These are the law. that will control the use and development of this property. And I'd like to wrap up with, we're in agreement with your professional staff. This has been recommended for approval by 6-1 vote by your planning commission, and I respectfully request that you approve all three of these cases as recommended for your approval, and we stand for any questions you have. Thank you.
May I ask him a follow-up question? No. Council, any questions?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for being here with us tonight. My name is Jeff Eigenbrug with White Rose Partners, and I'm excited to speak with you all about Project Spring. Given all the information we provided last week to Planning Commission, we're going to try to keep the technical portion of our presentation a little bit tighter. Additionally, with us tonight, we have J.T. Tolliver, who oversees Google's Mays County data center operations. Unfortunately, Google Kate could not be here with us tonight. JT will be talking through what it means to have a Google data center in the community, and we'll also be able to answer technical questions about Google's data centers. We also have our team of experts here again to help present the facts about Project Spring. I'd like to introduce the following members of our team. You just met JT and Lou with Eller Dietrich. We have Kimley Horn here, who is the engineering firm staff to support us. We have Brent Massey, our civil and lead for Google's project management. Casey Ryman, mechanical engineer. Amanda Miller, biologist, and we have, this is a mistype, but Jeremy's here from PSO as well, and then we have Tom Mishak with us as well, who's a traffic and civil engineer. I'd like to turn it over to JT now to speak about some of the economic benefits that will come with having a Google data center in Sand Springs.
Well, thanks so much to all of you for being here tonight and the City Council. I'm JT, and as Jeff mentioned, I lead our data center in Mays County. Like a lot of mine came out of a veteran. I served for 29 years in the United States Navy as a submarine officer. Now, at my campus, veterans from all military branches are employed by Google. They bring a wonderful energy, leadership, and really positively impact our culture and how we get things done. It is terrific. Now, really, we're here today just to help showcase the Project Spring details. As we talked about, Google is working with White Rose Partners, a data center developer, on exploring the potential for a data center at this property. We have experts here to talk about every topic relevant to data center layout, planning and permitting, and we're delighted to talk through all of it with you. Right now, I'm just going to talk about economic development that data centers bring to communities. I have seen this personally in Oklahoma for 5 years. So I read everywhere, data centers don't make jobs and have no impact locally. This is just not the reality I've seen in Oklahoma for 5 years. What I see is consistent with the study by Google and Deloitte. Every job at a Google data center, for every job, 8 or 9 or more are created in the broader economy. Google invests billions of dollars to get data centers up and running, and every year in operations we expend millions and millions. These systems are not static or stable. They're dynamic. We adapt to gain efficiency. We have new hardware coming. Everybody understands and periodically upgrade computers. We do that fairly recently because how fast they advance. And all this work generates both the... So in Mays County, 19 years ago, Google announced that we were coming. As of today, we have 1,000 employees, well over that, every single day working at the campus. This doesn't include construction workers, as we're continuing to build there. Now, a lot of my employees started in Google as technicians. We met them because they were working on site as contractors. Either contractors working every day there or contractors come to do work. And they've gotten into Google and they're thriving. And so a lot of my managers have come up from that team of technicians. I have peers as site managers without a college degree and nothing but practical experience doing a job just like I have, who came from my site and others. So very different than what I read and what people try to tell me about data centers. Just doesn't. I can't really reconcile it. I can't reconcile that with my reality. I do think back to some folks in Oklahoma who also really had a knack for calling things as they saw them. Now, back to a little bit here. And so So we really hire people based on experience and skills and how they interview, not necessarily credentials or degrees. There's a phrase from every single role that my team posts in this state. I'll repeat here. I may require an engineering degree for a role, but we'll say or equivalent practical experience. That phrase even applies to my role. So today we're really here to talk about zoning, but the financial impact of the Google data center is just really incredible and too much to ignore. We talk about big numbers, hundreds of millions of dollars. These aren't really abstract, but they represent real money for local businesses. Restaurants, gas stations, hotels, catering, driven by construction and ongoing operation. Now I'd like to hand it back to John to talk about the direct financial benefits.
Thanks, JT. As JT just mentioned, I'm going to talk through some of the direct financial benefits that will come from the Google data center in Sand Springs. Currently, Google's in the process of negotiating tax agreements, and I just want to be clear about that. This is a process, and we're in the middle of it. But those tax agreements are being negotiated with the city, Osage County, Sand Springs Public Schools, and Tulsa Tech. These agreements will involve a full public process and more meetings in the coming months. That being said, we wanted to give everyone a better idea of where the numbers in these agreements stand as of today and provide some additional clarity and transparency as we discuss the project. These are not finalized, to be clear, and require approval of all the entities I just mentioned. At full build-out across 3 phases, annual payments to the schools, the county, and Tulsa Tech will be approximately $9 million per year in pilot payments. Over $6 million of that pilot payment will go directly to Sand Springs Public Schools. You heard the figure $1.1 million for the schools before. That was actually the minimum amount for the smallest building. The payments are based on square footage and will grow as the project scales. In addition to the pilot, the City of Sand Springs will receive approximately $5 to $8 million per year in franchise fees, which are based on the project's electricity use. This will be through a separate development agreement outside of the pilot. In total, Google will be paying approximately $18.5 million per year to the city, county, Sand Springs Public Schools, and Tulsa Tech at full build-out. Today, the property generates less than $3,000 a year in tax revenue. Over the 25-year agreement, this amounts to hundreds of millions of dollars, as Mike Carter has mentioned previously, will directly benefit this community for decades to come. We've also heard concerns about the timing of some of these payments and uncertainty about construction delivery to initiate some of the payments. I want to be upfront. So some of these numbers I'm going to talk about, these are numbers that Google's committed to in other communities previously, and they usually do announce after the zoning and tax incentives are finalized. But Google asked me tonight to provide the following commitments because those benefits are worth communicating up front as early as possible. Kate from Google has mentioned community support in addition to the tax agreement payments I just outlined. So upon approval of those tax agreements, Google has already planned to make a donation of $500,000 to the Sand Springs schools and a donation of $100,000 to Anderson schools immediately upon signing the tax agreements. Additionally, Google will donate a minimum of $2.5 million per year to Sand Springs schools until those pilot payments begin upon delivery of the first phase of building. Google has also planned for a community development donation budget of about $20 million. This will be allocated based on the collaboration between Google and community leaders to deliver funding based on the community's specific needs. This is in addition to the funding I just outlined and will be distributed in the first 5 years after project approval. Google strongly supports the communities they belong to. They have a demonstrated track record of partnering with those communities to bring benefits to its residents through programs, through jobs, and betterment of the lives of the people who help make these projects possible. In summary, this is what the total picture looks like for the financial benefits Google will bring through Project Spring. Again, I want to be clear, these are the current estimates. All these approvals are yet to take place, but I thought it'd be helpful to pause on this slide just to provide a clear picture of what we're presenting today and emphasize the schools, the city, and the broader community will receive significant financial support starting this year and for years to come. I'd like to hand it over to Brent now to run through the more technical aspects of the project, and then we'll be happy to answer questions about some of those details.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brent Massey. I'm with Kimley Warren, civil engineer and project manager for the site. Just like to cover a few of the items. Lou referenced a few of those, and I'll cover in a little more detail, give a little bit of explanation on some of the technical items. So our conceptual site plan, you're familiar with the property. As you see, Lou outlined the setbacks, so 300-foot setback along all the perimeter of the property, with a 400-foot setback from Highway 97, landscape buffer 100-foot wide for the entire perimeter of the site, with an additional 200-foot intensified landscape buffer to southwest along the southern portion of the property for 3,500 feet from Highway 97 east. In addition to that, Lou had mentioned in that intensified buffer and in our landscape buffer, anywhere that there are not trees, at least one tree per every 40 linear foot, we would be planting trees in the entire perimeter of the site. Anywhere in that intensified landscape buffer, we would be planting trees at one every 20 linear feet. Double row evergreen for screening and sound abatement. You heard about landscape berms as well to create noise abatement, to create visual abatement for the site. So trying to do our best to be good neighbors and buffer everything that we're doing interior to the property. As a part of our site plan, you'll note that we show basically 4 buildings on the site, the 2 larger buildings that you see in the center of the site, and then a smaller data center to the south, and then the kind of the small, more square building is an office admin building. Those buildings are situated in the almost ideally in the center of the property, with the absolute most buffer we can get really in every direction possible. I thought I'd go through a few of those just to talk through a little bit. So building 1, as you look at it, the closest house to building 1 is 1,600 feet west toward Highway 97. Highway 97 itself, 1,700 feet away from the closest point of any building 1. To the north from building 1, the closest house, 2,600 feet away from us. Building 2, as you kind of move to the south, so building 2, for those of you who are far away from the screen, building 2 is the middle building, the larger one. Building 2, 2,100 feet to the west, to the nearest home to building 2. Moving south to building 3, that building is situated the closest to any of the properties. We recognize that. We try to do extensive buffering and landscaping along that south perimeter. That building is 1,200 feet to the nearest home. The office building, admin building, 1,500 feet to Highway 97, and it's 1,000 feet to any residence to the south of it. So we have, not only have we got setbacks and buffers, but we are placing our buildings in an interior location, far from residential, to try to help in all of those aspects. We do have access on Highway 97. Primary access would be there, kind of the southwest corner of the property, with an emergency secondary access just north of that, and then another secondary emergency access at the far northwest corner of the site off of Highway 97. All of our access would be off of Highway 97. Those 3 buildings basically are 3 phases of the project. The 3 data centers are considered 3 phases. We would be looking at, if approved tonight, we would hope to start with site work later this year, and then vertical construction of the buildings of Data Center 1 to begin in early 27. The period for building construction is about a 2-year window per phase or per building. So a little about cooling.
Thank you. Hello, technology. So Google will use a non-evaporative air cooling technology for the initial phases of the project. The air-cooled technology will rely on electricity and air to cool the facility in a closed-loop system, which means that the daily water consumption at the facility will be limited to domestic purposes, such as kitchens and restrooms. Should cooling water become preferable for future phases of the project, additional studies will take place based on the city's stated availability and local watershed health. And with that, I'll turn it over back to Brent to talk about wastewater.
So just real quick on water and sewer. So the site is served by a 6-inch water line that runs up Highway 97. We have been speaking with the city in terms of capacity of that line. If it's determined that we need additional capacity in that line, any improvements to the infrastructure for water would be borne by the developer, paid for by Google. Similar for wastewater, so there is no wastewater line, no sanitary sewer on the property currently. We have looked at options and we're still in design what that may look like. But again, septic is a possibility based on our limited water usage for kitchens, restrooms, showers, mop sinks, those sort of domestic uses that generate low flows for sanitary as well. But we've also looked at the potential to run a line all the way to the Sand Springs wastewater treatment plant. All of those options are on the table right now. Any of the improvements that we would do for the site in either water or sewer infrastructure would be borne by Google, paid for by Google for any of those upgrades. In addition to that, we're regulated for any of the options, whether it's water and sewer upgrades, which are controlled not only by the city of Sand Springs, but also Oklahoma DEQ also approves all public water and sewer lines. Same for septic or any kind of on-site treatment. All of those are regulated by ODEQ. So the next one is stormwater management. Just a quick word. We've had lots of questions about where does stormwater go? What's the impacts to surroundings, creeks, groundwater, all of those aspects. We are regulated. Any development in the state of Oklahoma is regulated by ODEQ under their Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan or SWIP plan. An OKR10 is required for any kind of land disturbance, any development greater than 1 acre has to have an OKR10 permit. We would be getting a permit from City of Sand Springs for earth change. We would be getting permits through the OKR10 permit and ODEQ. All of those regulations are required for us to be able to turn any dirt, to do anything on site. Operationally, we would be controlling stormwater. We are required by law to limit our stormwater outflow to the pre-development rates that are there currently naturally before the development started. So we would have detention, controlled outfall structures, all of those aspects from a stormwater management side. All of those are also regulated by the city and ODEQ. Talk a little bit about light standards. Lou mentioned it in his presentation about the PUD has self-imposed parameters for lighting, those being predominantly shielded and downward-facing fixtures, that you would not be able to see those fixtures from the highway, from exterior property. All of our lighting is for security purposes, so we are lighting up the security fence around our perimeter buildings. As Lou said, our security fence is set back behind the setbacks, so farther than 300 feet away from property lines, specifically for the purposes of security. So not lighting up yards, not trying to light up our exterior for any kind of production, any of those kind of things. In addition to that, just one more point on the PUD aspect of lighting. We do have and have agreed to a self-imposed study at the completion of the building, as well as annually for 3 years after the building is open, to be able to allow for sound as well. On the sound objective, 65 decibels at the property line and being able to limit our sound levels at the property. As I mentioned, self-imposed regulations, being able to conform to the city's requirements, and then being able to just adding to the landscape buffers, the berms, all of those aspects that we're trying to mitigate any sound issues. Turn it over to Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Mishek. I know a number of you. I've been a resident of Sand Springs for 43 years, and I was asked to be an independent consultant to White Rose Partners, and as a civil engineer and land surveyor, I am here to help them with the transportation engineering side of this, and I can assure you that safety is a #1 priority with Google to make sure that this project undergoes a strict traffic study so that the development can be safe for the traveling public as well as ingress and egress from the site. A traffic control plan will be right up front. I can't overemphasize the importance of the traffic control and how to get cars around the traffic that's going in and coming out. And I had a similar project to this several years ago in Blaine County for that had a lot of large truck movements. We were able to put the lanes in to move the trucks in and out and not require additional right-of-way other than what was provided by the developer. So if you have any further questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
There's ones on people's front porches. There's no.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Miller. I'm a biologist and environmental professional with Kimley Horn out of Oklahoma City. Project Spring will be subject to regulations and oversight from multiple state and federal agencies. That includes ODEQ, as mentioned, the Environmental Protection Agency, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Oklahoma Water Resource Board, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. As was indicated on the site plan, approximately 30 to 40% of the site will remain in its natural state, if not enhanced through the enhanced landscape buffer and other conservation measures. A field study was completed by an Oklahoma-based biologist, and we did not identify any endangered or threatened species at the federal level within the site. Conservation measures are required by law as part of those regulations, and this includes timing restrictions in order to limit the impact to species of concern, preserving those habitat areas through natural areas, and implementing best management practices to reduce the impact to those species. And finally, as part of that stormwater permit through the DEQ, we are required to certify and demonstrate that the construction activities will not jeopardize the existence of any of those federally or state listed species.
Just a couple of it, somebody.
There's bald eagles flying over that land.
And just to continue on air quality permitting and emissions, so our site would be regulated by the Clean Air Act, EPA, and ODEQ. We would have to get permits for any generators. Those are all regulated through ODEQ. Typically, the time limit for generators on a backup generator basis, 100 hours is what is typically permitted for facilities for backup generators. The only time that we would be running generators is for testing purposes, which is once a month for a few minutes at a time to ensure that those backup generators would work in an emergency situation. Those are regulated, as I said, to a 100-hour limit. We typically are less than 10% of that 100-hour limit for an annual yearly runtime. In addition to that, again, we self-imposed a 700-foot setback from any generator to any residential existing residence. So trying to do our part to preserve air quality for all involved. Permitting through ODEQ as well as EPA, all of those caps we would be complying with at every level.
Thanks. Just to wrap up a little bit here, so PSO has conducted multiple studies for Project Spring. They've confirmed the grid is strong enough to handle the data center's requirements. They've also confirmed that the data center will not increase costs for consumers. Google will be required to pay for all costs associated with energizing its data center. This includes a new substation and its share of any new generation required to serve the project. That concludes the review of the major issues we wanted to cover tonight. We respectfully request that City Council members approve the PUD per the recommendation of the City staff and the Planning Commission. Throughout this process, we believe we've consistently addressed all major concerns and have demonstrated two major facts. The first, data centers are not dangerous for the environment and are strictly regulated by local, state, and federal law. Google will comply with and uphold all of these requirements as they do at every single campus across the globe. The second is this is a game changer for the community of Sand Springs in terms of job creation, in terms of economic growth, and in terms of the financial benefits for the city, the county, but most importantly, the schools. This development will change the future of every child in Sand Springs. Thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to answering any questions.
Jeff, thank you. Is there any? No.
He said he would ask questions.
It's for the council. Does the council have any questions? When the project benefits not only the city but the schools, and our superintendent of schools is here. Sherry, would you like to say a few words about how this will benefit the school?
We're going to drop this out there.
Sherry, hold on just a bit. Good.
First of all, I do appreciate you being here. I know a lot of you, I'm not going to repeat some of the things that I talked about last time, but I do want to talk about advocacy. Because when, again, I was hired as the superintendent for Sand Springs Public Schools, one of the commissions was to advocate for kids. And I take that very seriously regardless of what people surrounding us sometimes think. Snow days are fun, as you can imagine, so last week was a barrel. I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I don't know that I've ever been asked by anyone, what would you do with $2.5 million? And I would ask for a little bit of politeness because we don't act like that. You guys, we teach your children to listen. First of all, we are clearer, but not in a final agreement because it is true negotiations have been going on. I will say that new information today made it very clear that Google has good intentions about providing what schools need. We try really hard to not say no to student programs when we have an element of interest for kids that are interested in whatever it is. It could be fishing, it could be archery, it could be whatever. It doesn't matter. We try to just say no, and we scrape by trying to provide everything we ask for. A few years ago, we started an aeronautics program. I don't know if you all know this, but we've hired an amazing teacher. He's actually retiring this year, but we have one in the ranks that will join us again. He's sitting in a classroom. I would love to show you, by the way, when this is all said and done, in 2 rooms with borrowed, donated airplane parts, and he really focuses on the mechanics. What we're talking about with job development in fields that really mean meaningful jobs for kids later on. One of the first things Google Kate says, thank you for saying that, said to me when we were talking through some of the initial meetings, she said, we partner with schools and we bring expertise into the schools so kids have an advantage of having access to professionals that can teach them how to become competent and access jobs of the future. I asked Sean Beard, I think he's still in the audience, if you were handed $2.5 million, I actually didn't give you an amount, but I said if it was limitless, what would you do with it? Most of you all are very aware that we're building a new middle school on the campus at Clyde Boyd. We also have a STEM lab as a part of that, but it would be really fantastic if we could equip that lab with state-of-the-art, project-based learning opportunities that, by the way, cost money. When I say advocate, and I don't want to belabor my time, I want to be respectful of your time, but the legislative season is starting. And while it might not be my favorite time of year, it is one of the times of year where I have to use my voice to talk to people that are in charge to make things happen for kids. And we know from talking to our representatives that third grade reading retention is coming back. We know that we're trying to mimic what's happening in Mississippi, what has happened in Mississippi over a 10-year plan in the state of Oklahoma, so we get our kids proficient at reading. So I can talk about the big picture of getting we will be faced with the directive, meaning implementing interventions for elementary school students that take people to run them. I meet with our teachers, I don't know how many are in the room, I know there's at least one, every month, and I ask them periodically, what is it that you need? And I can promise you, they would say more hands in classrooms. We know there's a math initiative that we're gonna have to embark on next year that's gonna require math coaches, so literacy coaches, math coaches, and guess what? All that takes money. And with that said, what the legislature is saying this year is a flat budget year. Because we've had some tax breaks, tax cuts, the past couple. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying schools take money to run. So when I get approached by someone that says, what can you do with $2.5 million a year up front prior to pilot agreement payments? There's a long laundry list, and I can start with the obvious new furniture at Charles Page High School that sorely needs to be replaced, onto the bigger picture of aeronautics and STEM labs and all those other things that make school beneficial for kids. That's really, I think, more than I probably need to state, but it does take money to run a school.
We need to data
Thank you.
Thank you. Council members have questions or comments? Okay, we'll open the meeting to some public input. Michael Patton, is he here? Michael, introduce yourself with the land legacy, is that correct?
Yeah, and I have some handouts for you as well. That's the easement. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors and staff. And I'm happy to be here. I'm Michael Patton. I run a company in Tulsa called Land Legacy. We own property rights. We work around the state, mostly in Oklahoma, but we have 16 of these in Osage County and quite a few of these in our portfolio. This is a conservation easement. If you look at this document, this is filed in Osage County Courthouse in 2013. The Ringo family came to us and signed away their development rights on 270 of these 827 acres. This was not found when the ordinance closed up until Thursday, when your legal counsel for the developer acknowledged it in a letter to you. It should have been found, it's easy to find, and it wasn't. We own the development rights of this land.
Hear, hear.
We should have had a chance to discuss this and work with everybody, and yet we haven't. The Ringo family came to me a couple of years ago, made promises, turned out to be lies, nothing happened. I will address, Mr. Bates expressed that they work with us. I've had one call from him after I reached out to him. No one from the city, no one from the Google, no one from the DAD team has had a single conversation or process at all for this. Yet we own property rights for 32% of the property you're doing today. On the back of that document, you'll see a map for it. Alan Ringo did this himself. It contains a buffer. The entire fence line, more than 3/4 of the fence line, is now under easement. A large part of the middle of it, the donut you saw in pink, can be accessed without going through our easement. No roads, no buildings. We own those rights, and should have been notified at the beginning. We could have worked on this for months and months. I know it's last minute. The Planning Commission did not even know of this when they made their vote. I spoke at the very end. They made a decision without all the information that was now acknowledged by your attorney, and you have copies in front of you. So this is a very serious matter. You cannot annex land without our permission and our help and our knowledge, and you can't rezone land without this. We are not anti-data center, as much as the crowd is. We are not. But the rights to do this have been severed and are owned by us and have been for 13 years. I would love to have a discussion with staff, with the developer, with Google, with any of you, how to resolve this issue. But at this point, because we've been ignored, because we've been forgotten, and because now you have knowledge that this is a significant and material impact on this decision today, I urge you, step back and have meetings and figure out how to do this correctly. We all want it done correctly. If at all, you have to do it right.
Here, here.
There's a hierarchy. Our restrictions say on page 3, no roads, no buildings. In essence, says that. It's a long list of what you can and can't do. It's restrictions. This is not a normal utility easement that allows access for a power line or a water line. This is restrictions against development, signed, notarized by all the members of the Regal family 13 years ago. Land legacy owns its rights. I urge you, take a pause and do this correctly. Thank you.
We're God-like people. Mr. Reynolds, have you got any? Are you prepared to address that?
Mr. Mayor, he's correct. There is an easement across the property.
Here, here.
Oh, yeah. And PSO has an easement across the property. The city of Sand Springs has an easement across the property. And a pipeline company has an easement across the property.
You didn't disclose it.
Just a minute. Just a minute. All right, please continue.
Will comply with the terms of those easements. There's nothing special about any of these easements except that we have to comply with them. We will comply with them, and there's the ability to comply with them. And the easement that Mr. Patton speaks about, it can be modified by its express language, unilaterally by the Ringel family, and it will comply with this project, period. And that easement will be shown on the plat of the property when it's subdivided as a part of this process, and everyone can see we will comply.
Mr. Reynolds, do you see any reason that we cannot proceed legally as far as this?
Mr. Mayor, I'm aware of none. I see none, and I discussed it with your legal counsel, and we're in agreement.
He's asking for legal advice from their lawyer.
Okay, thank
wow.
You.
Wow.
I assume there's going to be conversations that will happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fenner.
We're not anti-data center, we just want it in an industrial area.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can we choose a few of the people that are close by and very involved to speak? And we want to call him Charlie Pearson first. I would say the response tells you how we chose it.
So you chose the people who are going to get to publicly speak here tonight, and the public can't speak? Is that what we're understanding? Wow. You screwed that one up. Wow. Congratulations, folks. Y'all.
Hi, guys. Thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. And I'm going to back up Mr. Patton here just a minute and tell you that I'm going to ask you to vote no on this project because there's 2 landowners involved here. And if me and Jim Spoon owned a piece of property together, and I decided I wanted to do something with it, I cannot do that without Jim's permission. Now, I can buy Jim out. I can do whatever I want to. But Land Legacy has told you Alan's not going to buy him out. They're not going to happen. They signed this 13 years ago, and it says that it will remain agriculture till the end of times. Alan and Susan know that. They knew that when they brought this project to you. They knew that. They misled you when their attorney went down there and signed this piece of paper that says, and I will read the line, are there any restrictions controlling the use of this tract of land, either private restrictions or deeded restrictions? There's a deeded restriction.
Bingo.
They signed no.
Here, here.
The attorney signed this letter under their authorization. So you cannot sit there and pass this knowing that there's 2 landowners and the one landowner has not been contacted. He has not been brought into this picture. And he stood here before you tonight and told you that. So please consider that part of it. Then the other thing I want to talk to you about is the people that live out north. We have a right to stand up and say, guys, no. Because you're affecting our livelihoods now. we have cattle, we have livestock, and there is no study that you can find, or I can find, that tells me the long-term effect of what's fixing to happen. It's just not out there. There's not been out there long enough. Okay, I'm hurrying. Cody, I am. Okay, but I want to tell you that I have invited each one of you all out here, from the end of the table all the way down to the end. Please come out and spend some time with me. I've asked you publicly, privately, and you have chosen not to do that. Let me show you what we're fixing to get into. And then the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is real quick, is I talk about, you hear about Sand Springs, you hear about Sand Springs School. We are known about out north called Rock Community. There's been no money mentioned about what's going to happen to us. It all goes to town. It all goes to the schools. We support the schools. We do. I'll back you up every time something comes along. I back you up. But guys, you need to stop and think. And please consider and vote no on this. I'm just like Mr. Patton. Let's take a breath. Let's back up. Let's figure out how to do this right. But the way you're doing it is not right, because there are two landowners, and one of them said no. So please consider, please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Next is Kyle Schmidt.
That's too tall. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I'm going to try and keep this short, but I feel like not all of the information has been shared. I feel like there are some things that had City Councilors known, they might have chosen to do things a little bit differently. Starting with that this was planned to be for a data center back on March 19th. 4 months, nearly, before you guys voted to annex this. Meaningful notice means that the public gets meaningful notice. And if we don't know what's going in, then we don't have meaningful notice. If you didn't know it was for a data center, you didn't have meaningful notice either and should have not voted to annex it in. So we're here not just about a data center, but we're here because of what Charlie said. This was not right. It was not done right from the very beginning. The map that you guys used to vote on, that line did not exist on official city maps for 39 years until Mr. Ringel asked the city to put it back on, and Brad Bates obliged to work with INCOG and create a new official city map, putting that line back in place. That's not the right process. Again, not right. It was not annexed properly. That line doesn't exist. Even if it did, the Supreme Court has ruled, and I will state verbatim, the annexation of disconnected tracts of land by a connecting strip that serves no municipal purpose other than to establish statutory contiguity constitutes an impermissible exercise of state delegated annexation power by a municipal authority.
Hear, hear.
That is black and white, cut and dry. It doesn't say how wide that land has to be. It doesn't say when that land had to be annexed or when that strip got put into place. It says nothing about it. It says that use of that narrow strip is impermissible. It does not meet contiguity standards. Last point here. Your own zoning ordinances state in section 12, descriptions under your zoning code, page 12-1, a planned unit development is an alternative to conventional development where the particular tract is under common ownership or control. This tract of land is not under single ownership or control. Land Legacy has control rights to this land. Therefore, a PUD cannot be voted on and approved, or you are in violation of your own zoning code. Further, Chapter 3 definitions, Section 3.01, page 3-11. Planned unit development, PUD, a discretionary type of development for a tract of land under single ownership or control. Your own zoning code states it clearly in black and white twice. You now know that this is not under single ownership or control. And I will point out to Mr. Reynolds' comment about the land being subdivided. I believe you have a copy of the conservation easement deed. It says in that conservation easement deed that that land may not be subdivided without the permission of land legacy. That is the definition of not under single control. Land legacy has control, and the PUD cannot be approved by the city council. It's plain and simple. It's black and white. And I know you guys are volunteers. I know you guys have caught a lot of flack for all this. I know the easy thing is to bury your head in the sand and go, you know what? I'm just going to listen to what my boss tells me. I'm going to listen to what my leadership tells me. And so I don't know. I don't know if you guys knew all of this. And so I got up tonight and chose to state this. In case you didn't know, now you do. And now that you know, this wasn't right. It wasn't done right from the beginning. It all started on March 19th with coordination between Brad Bates and a private landowner for private development interests. And now look at where we are. We're a community divided. We're talking about a data center when we should be talking about whether or not that was proper. We would not have this strife in this community. Do you think $2.5 million a year is going to buy unity? Do you think it's going to buy integrity? It's not. It wasn't right. You now know it's not right, and you need to vote no.
Any council members have a question?
It's a community without a voice.
A representative of the Ingram family.
How did they get chosen?
Anyone here?
Please communicating in an open meeting appropriately.
Hi there, my name is Chandra Ingram. I live at 5519 North State Highway 97 in Sand Springs. I am an abutting and adjoining territory to Project Springs. I want to tonight speak up for my land because she spoke up for me. Land gives opportunity for people to have space. Space I was desperately seeking. In 2019, I retreated to my land, leaving behind employment, social media, and limiting most social systems. I am a third generation to this land and have made investments to continue that legacy. It is within the last 5 years I have begun to understand the stewardship of that land. Over the last 5 years, my land, has championed my relationship with my Creator that neither cathedral nor sanctuary can hold. She has fostered health and wellness through food production and activities reported up to 11 miles a day by foot, cheering on 60 pounds of weight loss. Her unwavering commitments to just be inspire me daily. She never asked permission to be zoned a gym, zoned a grocery store. She never petitioned to be a place of worship, but instead, my awareness to her possibilities changed. She is just those things. She never asked for a friend request, but instead saw that I needed a friend. She is kind, she is beautiful, and she is anything you want her to be, but she shouldn't have to be. I have been around development my whole life, so development altogether does not bring cause for concern, but rather the intended use. I have been around development so much that I know every good builder has a blueprint, or in this case, a comprehensive plan. And every general contractor, the very first phone call they're going to make is the Johnny on the spot. Because in development, you need to know where to put the stuff. And that's your zoning. Sand Springs' greatest resource is land, being that of less than 22 square miles outside of petition acquisition. Acquisition of land should be sought with ideals that are conducive to our charter, only prescribing that which make a community whole, and being that of efficient, adequate, economical. And if you are reading that from the dictionary, it reads this way: We should be preventing the wastefulness of a particular resource, making sure that it is satisfactory and acceptable in quality, giving good value or service in relationship to the effort spent. Using no more of something than necessary, we should rely on Sand Springs' land use matrix and their master plan, giving residents a clear guideline and the confidence to live and to grow in a place that fosters their well-being. Please vote no.
Thank you. How about a representative of the Blevins family?
Hi, I'm Neil Blevins. I live at 5578 North State Highway 97. Almost lived there 19 years now. My property is approximately 35 yards from the proposed data center entrance. I've worked construction in refineries and chemical plants all over the U.S. for 45 years. Something that hasn't been discussed in detail is the serious and ongoing quality of life. Unrelenting construction noise occurring 24 hours a day and projected to continue for at least 5 years. This is not an occasional inconvenience. This is the chronic exposure to excessive noise. Backup alarms, cranes, cement trucks, dump trucks, bulldozers, excavation equipment, plus the light plants will be needed to be used during the construction on nights. Many of these exceed 85 decibels, a level recognized by OSHA and public health authorities as harmful with prolonged exposure. To be clear, 85 decibels is not a minor threshold. It sustains exposure at levels, at these levels associated with sleep disruption, elevated stress hormones, cardiovascular strain, cognitive impairment, and long-term hearing damage. When these noise levels occur overnight, and it will, it deprives residents of restoring sleep over months and years. That becomes a public health issue, not merely a nuisance. These homeowners did not content to living in an industrial environment. Continuous construction noise day and night for half a decade violates that expectation. I want to emphasize this, not opposition to development. Growth should occur, but growth that projects its cost onto residents through sleep and stress and declining property values is not a responsible development. This type of development sends the message that revenue outweighs health and that residents are expected to endure harm without recourse. I've sat quietly and listened to people that have voiced their concerns, and from what I've seen, you guys have already made up your mind. So you don't have to listen to all the equipment 24/7. You don't have to see the 40-foot building with the stack, which I haven't mentioned how tall the stacks are. We don't know how high they will be. We talk about initial plan, and eventually, we haven't seen a true plan of data center itself. So eventually, what you will end up with is a lot of friendships broken and division in your city. Now, if any of you love the sound of construction that goes on 24 hours a day for the next 5 years, I have some property I'd gladly sell you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone that we've heard of the kind of the comments against the data center. Do we have anyone like to speak for a data center?
Why don't you open up for them and not for the people that want to speak? That's a great question.
Please to introduce yourself and give us your address?
Absolutely. My name is Jason Charles. Jason Charles. I live at 4513 South Holly. I've lived in this community for nearly 20 years. I love being a part of Sand Springs. I love being a part of this community. I'm a trustee over the charities at the Sand Springs home.
I'll hold for a minute.
Yeah, if you guys can pause my time when that happens, that'd be awesome.
Kyle, thank you.
I appreciate that. And in my position, we take care of approximately 200 children in the Sand Springs School District. I'm excited about the possibilities for these kids in our school district. I look at Pryor and I see the programs and the opportunities that they're able to give kids as a result of the funding that they receive from Google. And it's exciting to me. I look at what we could do with our city. I look at our fire and our police, and I think about how we can get competitive salaries with other communities that are near us. I think about parks and roads and what our city could do with this funding. I've been at all of these meetings, and I'm going to tell you what I observe at all of these meetings. I've observed our city officials paying attention. You guys are going to help me make my final point, so I appreciate your help. I watched our planning commission last week, listened to the concerns of the community, and asked pointed questions of experts in the field to try to get information to alleviate concerns and to make sure that this development is appropriate. I watched the developer bring in experts to help reassure the public, and I watched them bend and make concessions to make sure that they're being good neighbors and that they're supporting the quality of life for those that live in the area. As I said, I've been in all these meetings, and we talked about the Bible a little bit too. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I read the Bible. I don't see anything in it about data centers. What I do see, though, and I think when we're in these situations, we have to think about how can the Bible apply to the situation that I'm in. I do see disagreement. And the Bible talks quite a bit about that. And if we look at Ephesians 4:31, it says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you." So I'll just close with this. This isn't a big city. This is a town where people know each other. They have relationships with each other. We know these men at this table. They're not different than the men who were sitting at this table 6 months ago. They're the same guys. 6 months ago, we were appreciating them and thankful for their service. And now we're name-calling, making false allegations. When we have disagreements, we have a choice to make. I honestly think that 10 years from now, people won't care a whole lot about where you fell on this particular issue, but people are going to remember how they were treated by each other. And all I'm asking is that we deal with our disagreement with kindness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Please state your name and your address, please.
Troy Zickfoos, 3717 South 129th West Avenue. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a scientist. I don't have a bunch of data that I can refer to about the data center. I have this. I think I'm a pretty good judge of people, and I see that we have, not that we could have such a division, but we have already caused a division because humans, we are so apt to believe, to fall to peer pressure and making decisions. And I have friends of people that I have
have been associates with on the council, and Alan and Susan, Phil and Jay Dean, and of course Kyle and Mallory. And I have a lot of friends here. But I know one thing. A little over a decade ago, I was voted Sand Springs' favorite citizen, and I'm not saying that to toot my horn. I didn't realize that even existed until I was awarded it, but I asked why. And it's because of my concern for economic development and for average working families, and for what the jobs and what the dollars mean. These are not crap jobs, guys. These are not, and I'm not meaning to knock Walmart or McDonald's, but I'm saying these are good technical jobs that would come with this. I have lost employees that I really respected, that were good for me here in Sand Springs, to leave to go to Pryor. And I know what I've seen, what has happened in Pryor with the data center there, and how the development of so much, everything around, how the economy has grown. I've seen when our steel mill that we lost here devastated this community, because so many of us, including some on the council and myself, that worked the steel mill until it was shut down. It was key here. It was key here. Please, let's not look at what we've got worked up into, not a drama. And that's those of you for and against, which obviously right here I've come to find out I'm probably one of the 3 people for it. But let's not get caught up in what we want to go along with our friends. As I say, I don't want to lose my friends. And the people I've heard speaking here tonight, I know every one of them. From Mr. Pearson to the ones that I've already mentioned, friends of mine. And I'm just on the opposite side of seeing if I've heard things tonight about the actual land use, if this is a legal thing to do. And thank you, Kyle. Thank you. And if this, if there's not a legal problem with it, if there is a legal problem, I understand it needs to be looked into. But if there's not a legal problem with the land use, we need this. The schools need it. Is my time up? All right. Yeah. Well, we need the jobs. We need, and it's not the 100 jobs you may have heard that will be there. Just like when the steel mill shut down, it wasn't the 350 or 400 jobs there. It was all of the little companies around, the ones that like IO, and the ones like that fed off of that served those. Alan, Susan, I love you guys, and I really want us. I want everybody to look inside them with discernment, with what we need. And I
3 minutes.
Mr. Zickerfoos, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, I don't believe you've spoken at any of the meetings, have you?
No, I've done my best to sit back and just listen. And but I find it hard to sit back and listen tonight, and I'll be honest. I don't think if you took a poll out here that you would find too many who would actually oppose a data center coming into Sand Springs. I think if you took a poll, you would find that most of them oppose the way and the location. I serve on the Education Foundation Board, and education is very important to me. I have 6 grandkids that are getting ready to come through your school, Ms. Durkee. I want them to thrive. When they leave high school, I want them to be ready for the real world, and I believe you can do that. Yep. I believe you can do that with extra money, and I would never ask for the data center to not write you a check. What we're asking you to do tonight, guys, is to honor the agricultural land that has been up north for multiple years. It's not how God intended for it to be. There is agricultural land all the way around it, surrounded on all corners. Why there? Eric Stuckey, I've talked to you in private. You've talked to me. You've told me. I'm not going to go there because I don't want to ruin our friendship. From one end of this board to the other, I have the utmost respect for you because I know you guys care about this town. I'm going to ask you now. I lived at 923 North Holly Court 15 years ago. I could hear Highway 412 from my house, inside my house. I read a brochure from Alan Ringel that said, come and build a home in Windridge. Come out here and enjoy the peace, tranquility. I'll sell you a lot with a view over a pond. And he talked me into it. He's a sales guy. Okay? This same sales guy has now thrown me and several other people that he sold homes to and property to under the bus.
Not personal.
Okay. Then I will withdraw that, but I think everybody's heard it now. I'm going to ask you, Jim Spoon. You've known my family forever, and I promise you, I've prayed for every one of you for the decision you're about to make. And I stand before God. I have. Please don't divide this town. Please don't restructure this land. Leave it exactly how it is. Bottom line is, it creates food. All right? There's other parcels of land in this town where this can go. And that money that we so desperately need for our schools, can still happen. Can still happen.
Let me comment on that. It's very, very likely that if this doesn't happen in this location, there will not be a data center opportunity for Sandy Springs. So when we're talking about this project, it's not an either or, it's a yes or no. It's not another opportunity for Sandy Springs. Now, what brings you to the microphone?
You got telekinesis or something?
Anyways, I'm here to speak up. I'm an Osage member of the Osage Nation. So
Have you spoken before the council?
It's my first time ever in these spaces, so I just wanted to come and
Okay.
speak my voice on this. Alrighty, my name is Alex DeRoyne. I'm a citizen of the Osage Nation, a member of the Bear Clan, and I am speaking self-consciously from this vantage point today. I come before all of you as a concerned relative of this community and a concerned relative to the waterways that will be affected by the decisions made here today. I grew up alongside both Hominy and Bird Creek that are located in the Verdigris River Basin that moves downstream into the body of water that we call Skytooth Lake, which is the same body of water this project has its sights set on. I believe that this information is important to note here today because I want to challenge the room and every person in it to ask yourself, where does your water come from? I would also like to humbly remind everybody that the water in these lakes and the water in our bodies are actually a source of life, not a source of profit. In my time growing up in my tribes and Loshka dances, I spent my time praying with and advocating for this water. One of the many teachings that stuck with me in this time is that water is a prayer to us Osage people. And that the importance of water was always emphasized to me. It was expressed to me that water is the backbone of our way of life as Osage people because water itself is life. Water is the most selfless relative that gave a piece of itself to become your mother's breast milk that would eventually be immortalized in the enamel of your teeth. That gives more evidence to this idea that this water conservation is important because water problems are passed down to the next generations. So with that, I want to close this by reminding the council that as an individual citizen of the Osage Nation and a relative to this land and water, I have not seen free, prior, and informed consent sought from my people regarding this project. This absence perpetuates colonial harms by dismissing our inherent seat at the table and kinships we hold with this water. While I speak for myself, I recognize that this disregard threatens not only my sovereignty and cultural continuity, but also the physical survival of all of our communities. This isn't just a native problem, it is a threat to all Oklahoman ways of life. The water that sustains us all is interconnected, and harming it endangers the health, heritage, and future of every community within this very region. My people here today many people here today are parents and grandparents. And I ask you to consider this decision not only for the present, but for the generations to come, so that our grandchildren, your neighbors' grandchildren, and even my own will be able to have access to safe, clean water. So I ask you to vote no. Protect this water as an act of neighborly love and responsibility. I'd like to believe this council is composed of honorable and respectable people, so I don't need to remind you that true respect and justice means putting people and the planet over profit. So I urge you to reconsider your course of action for the sake of every Oklahoman that depends on these waters and my people themselves. We all deserve a right at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to now see if anybody from this community, anybody in this community
He's a member of the
that has
public.
not spoken before.
I'm a member of the community. I identify as a Sand Springs resident. That's my pronoun is Sand Springs. Those are my pronouns.
You can't discriminate like that.
Is that okay? I wanted to speak for the data center. Can I do that?
3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Look, I'm here to talk for the data center because I want you to understand exactly how it is that these people see you, and I want you to see how it is if you support this thing and exactly what you're sending as far as a message is concerned. You know, the Founding Fathers, when they created this country, they talked about an idea.
We didn't get your name to start with.
Ron Durbin.
And your address.
Ron Durbin, I don't get my address, but thanks.
We're requesting your address.
I don't get my address, thanks, so. I have a Fourth Amendment right to not identify myself for those purposes. We can talk about the Fourth Amendment if we need to. Can I start my time back over? I was interrupted. Thank you.
Yeah, you didn't have speaker rules.
I hear you over there. No, ma'am. Okay.
You get the 5 seconds that I took.
Okay. So when the Founding Fathers created this country, there was an idea that the people, these people here today, don't have the ability or shouldn't have the ability to speak for themselves because, darn it, if the masses get control of the things, we might do things that I don't know don't favor the rich and the beneficial. They don't favor things like Google and the billionaires in this country.
What does this have to do with land use?
Can you let me speak? You're interrupting.
No, I'm asking you. What,
I will get to my point. I have 3 minutes, right?
What's land use?
I have
land use.
I have 3 minutes, sir. If you interrupt me one more time, I'm going to sue you for violating my civil rights. Stop interrupting me.
This is about,
stop interrupting me.
This is about
Patty, stop interrupting me. Stop interrupting me.
Use.
I'm talking about land use and how that relates.
Sir,
talk about land use.
Stop.
I am a student of this school.
Great.
And I will not have this. I will not have this.
Okay.
He's interrupting your meeting.
Stop. Everybody,
pause this, Jamie.
Everybody,
you
stop.
pause this.
I will not have this disrespect. You will not do it.
Sit down, child.
Okay.
Sit
you.
down. Sit down.
Shut up, sir.
Sit down, child. Sit down, child. You want to stop? Don't touch me.
We need some
control this guy.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. Now, tell me. All right, give us a minute. Okay, tell me, have you spoken before the Commissioner Council? Give us your name and your address, please.
Can I hold it? Is that going to mess up the sound? Okay, I'll make a stand. My name is Mallory Schmidt. I live at 5032 North State Highway 97. I'm about a mile from the site. Thank you, Sand Springs Finest, for that. I agree with you, Luke. That disrespect is not tolerated in this town. I think if you were to ask our young people, and I've heard it a lot, what is the sandite? Anybody? It's who you want to be. And I'm standing here because that's who I want to be. And I hope that when I leave here today, that's still who I want to be. And I appreciate it. I am excited. I agree with Troy. I'm excited about the opportunities that a data center could provide. What I'm asking you is to bring Google to the table. They offered to partner. Let's partner. But let's not sign off on this land right here, right now. City Council, you are the one standing in the way of this deal, essentially. You are holding the line. You are holding the line. Because as soon as you vote to rezone this, the deal is done. There is no bringing them to the table. So what I'm asking is for you to say no today. they offered to partner, let's partner, great. Let's find a spot. Mr. Spoon, I know you said there's no other spots, but we heard Mr. Carter at the lunch the other day say there were 2 other proposed sites.
Yes.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We teach our children in our schools respect, kindness, integrity, and we award them for those behaviors. So I would love to see you all, as pillars of the community, handle yourselves with integrity. You've heard several arguments today showing that this wasn't done properly, which I think right there tells us we need to say no today. I'm not against data centers. I work in research. I use data to make informed decisions. And from what I've heard, there isn't a concrete plan here. We need to know for sure what they're going to do. I've heard a lot of we hope, we plan, initial phases.
We promise.
Let's not sign off on this until we know what they're going to do and we have it in writing. I think that makes good business sense. So again, I ask you on this matter to say no.
Thank you for your comment. Please introduce yourself and give us your address.
My name is Mary Eubanks, and I live at 1055 North Douglas. Before that, I lived out on Coyote Trail, so I have lived in the country. I want to ask, how many people have actually been to the Google Center? I did today. Because I want to know both sides before I make a decision. I went today to the Google Center. My husband drove me. I'm originally from Muskogee, but I moved here almost 40 years ago. And I have seen, today I saw how Pryor has grown. And I know it's due to the data center. And I've talked to the superintendent at Pryor and how much money has done for the school. I want you all to know, I went out there. I rolled down my car windows. I heard nothing, and I was parked right on the road by the Google Center. I did not, at their facility, I did not hear anything, did not smell anything. I saw the field right across the street, around the corner there, where they had cut hay, and they had the bales of hay. They've been there several years, I think it's 5 years, 15 years. They've been there a long time. So the hay's still going well, right there in the field, right across the street. But what I saw more than anything was the cars parked in the parking lot around whatever that work there. Guys, we talk about jobs. That's what Google will do. It will bring good jobs to our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
9.2 per building, per conference.
Yes, ma'am. And you haven't spoken to the Commissioner Council?
No, I don't usually speak, but I come to all these meetings and I just couldn't sit in longer. So I am not against the data center.
Give me your name and address.
Kathy Wood, 9464 Black Oak Lanes. I live in the Oaks, right up Highway 97. The Google has said that they will put in all this money for all of the landscaping. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that could be used for schools, that could be used for anything else. Why do we have to put it up there when there are industrial areas in town? You said it's a yes or no. But if you say no, someone else is going to approach you in town maybe to get that. And if they don't, well then maybe it was the Lord's plan not to do it here, but it's not, shouldn't be out in the county. So anyway, the landscaping money could be used here in town and where it should be used. Number two, I shop here in Sand Springs. We go to church clear on the other side of Tulsa, but we always drive back here to eat. We drive back here to fill up our tanks of gas because we want to support our city. But I can very well shop somewhere else and go out of town and take the money that we already spend here and go to Skytube or go to Sapulpa or go into Tulsa. I would prefer to spend it here where I live, but not if it's going to disrupt the whole rock community. It's just not fair. As far as the noise pollution, we live 4 miles up 97. If I go out on my back porch, I can hear the train in Sand Springs. That sound carries all the way up that hill. What is this data center going to do? And that's all I have. I do pray that you vote no. Something else will come up. Someone else will have this great idea of putting this data center somewhere other than agriculture land. It needs to go into an industrial park with other industrial. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Please give us your name and your address, please.
He doesn't live here.
Dustin Thielen, 584 South Lewis, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
My name's
Dustin Thielen. I'm the business manager of IBW Local 584, and I'm speaking on behalf of a local workforce coalition representing electricians, elevator workers, iron workers, laborers, operators, and plumbers and pipe fitters. We're here tonight because decisions made in this council shape how development affects working families and neighborhoods in Sand Springs for years to come. We're not being paid to be here, and no one asked us to be here except for the workers we represent.
That is land use. Land use. Land use.
Let me be clear about who those workers are. Across our unions, we represent more than 100 working members who live in Sand Springs, along with many retirees. These are skilled tradespeople who already call this city home. There are parents, caregivers, and neighbors. They have kids in Sand Springs schools, they look after aging family members, they shop here, and they pay taxes here. We also want to share some perspective based on experience. In the last 10 years alone, our members have worked on large data center projects across Oklahoma, including the Google facilities and prior. During that time, our unions filled thousands of job assignments on those cities. It's important to explain what that really means. Those were not thousands of different people. Many of those assignments were the same workers returning over multiple phases of construction. What that shows is steady, long-term work for Oklahoma tradespeople, not short-term, out-of-state labor coming and leaving. From a workforce standpoint, that matters. Phased developments create stability for families and training opportunities for apprentices, and it allows projects to become part of the local economy instead of just passing through. As a coalition, our principles are straightforward. We want to see local workers prioritized for this construction and long-term maintenance, strong safety standards on the job site, good wages and benefits, and clear expectations set early. We understand this council's role is to balance economic development with quality of life for residents. From a workforce perspective, public decisions shape how a site will function for decades, how it's built, how it operates, and how it fits into the surrounding community. When standards are clear from the beginning, projects tend to work better for workers and for neighbors. Clear standards mean safer jobs and fewer problems later. At the end of the day, this is about whether development in Sand Springs creates real opportunity for people who already live here. The kind of work that lets someone raise a family, stay close to home, and build a future in this town. We appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this conversation, and we thank you for considering the workforce and community impact as you review this project.
Thank you.
Not land use.
Thank you. Okay, I see 4 different people in line to speak. We'll end it with those 4 people.
Thank you. My name is Kennedy Garza. I live at 105 South Adams. I speak uniquely to land use. My mom's farm is a mile from Project Clydesdale, which is the 500-acre data center in Owasso. After they voted to rezone that land, it was not disclosed to landowners prior to the vote. They all got notices to have a third-party inspection done on their homes because they could not guarantee the structural integrity of those structures and homes once the blasting started for the data center construction. So they were not told ahead of time that they could not guarantee the structural integrity of their homes or their property values. So I'm curious if the city of Sand Springs is prepared to offer people compensation for the loss of their property values. I guarantee you there's a lot of people that will not want to move to Sand Springs when they find out there's an 800-acre data center being put in this town. The second thing is nowhere else in Northeast Oklahoma currently is there an air-cooled data center. That's going to change immediately. They merely caught on to the fact that water was a big deal and they changed their wording from various town meetings because I've been to all of them. It's such a big deal that they're saying it's going to be air-cooled, but nowhere else in Northeast Oklahoma, due to our humid summers, are they able to do air-cooled systems.
Right.
So I would urge you guys to look into that, even though you're proceeding kind of illegally because it's not even, you haven't even discussed it with the landowner, as that was pointed out. But I would just urge you to look into that. And the blasting, you cannot guarantee the residents around the land that their homes are not going to be structurally affected. And the one last thing I forgot to mention was noise over 80 decibels, as the gentleman pointed out, the 5-year construction. 70 and above affects farm animals' reproduction and human reproduction and cortisol levels and stress levels long-term for health. So.
My name is Shelby Weaver, and I live west of town on Highway 51, just about a mile from an existing industrial facility that runs 24/7, 365. So I've already experienced the light pollution and noise pollution that comes with that. I can stand a mile out in the trees on my grandparents' property, and I can still hear them any given time of day. I also, on that part of town, pay a city water bill, but have no voting say in what happens in my community.
Yeah.
So, other than that, I have 3 topics I want to touch on tonight. My first topic is groundwater contamination. It has been stated by Google that there would be no groundwater contamination, but that is an impossible promise. It does rain in this part of the state, or snow, as we have recently seen, and when it rains, or when that snow melts, all that water hits their impervious surfaces, such as rooftops, roads, parking lots, generators, battery storage areas, and it runs off into the soil around it. And that water eventually does make its way into the watershed. It may take years, but once that watershed has been contaminated, it is next to impossible to clean up. Second, environmental regulations are rarely enforced at the state and federal levels until the damage has already been done. We have seen this across many different industries, and they've even made movies about it. I know this firsthand as I work in environmental compliance for highway construction. ODEQ, who does get their regulations from the EPA, is regularly underfunded with an overwhelming workload. They are reactive instead of proactive, as many government agencies are. So when Google tells you they will abide by all regulations, they too are already aware of what they can get away with. So users our last line of defense. And lastly, the facility renderings, they look fantastic. Everything is beautiful and green and very park-like. But what is not shown are the power lines that will undoubtedly crisscross the background, what it will look like after dark, and to me, most importantly, what it will look like over winter. When 90% of the vegetation is dormant, there are no leaves on the trees to provide their visual barriers they love to reference. So if they are Google and have the power of AI behind them, why were these items not portrayed in their examples?
Great question.
So, before you vote, please take into consideration that all of us are here, despite the chaos happening in our country, and in our individual lives. We are all standing here together requesting that you do not move forward with this, and that should matter more than any dollar amount Google or White Rose has promised you.
Next, please state your name and your address, please.
Yes, I'm Mitch Rooker from 1015 North McKinley, and I'm asking you to not vote no, but to vote no for now. I'm a retired engineer, 50 years in R&D. I have experience in noise abatement and also pollution abatement. I've been involved in 2 instances in Tulsa where there was pollution of the ground, and I offer my services, volunteer to find a better location and to transition into something that will avoid all of this problem and all the legal problems.
It's a big
So
problem.
please consider that.
Thank you, Mr. Ricketts. Please state your name and address.
My name is Nicole Ross, and I live at 21903 West 12th Street in Sand Springs, Oklahoma. I live right below Keystone Dam, for anybody who doesn't know where that is. So this place is super far away from my house. And I'll be the first person to tell you that I absolutely am desperately and I am in need of this data center. Not in that location, but I need a data center to help cure my husband's hereditary disease, which a data center could do. But I don't want it at the cost of my neighbors to have to deal with that. It's not worth it to me to have them be unhappy just so my husband can be cured. That would be awful selfish of me, correct?
That's right.
If I wanted that data center and I told you to vote yes tonight so my husband can be cured in 5 years, when it's fully built and doing all of its calculations, it would have the capacity and ability to cure my husband. Please, not there, not up there. He doesn't want it. I don't want it. Even he doesn't want it. He's at home with Huntington's disease, so doesn't do crowds very well. This is not something that we think, Charles Page, think right, right? Think right. I don't think up there in the hills of Osage, the hills where there's lots of rocks and valleys and up and down and all kinds of, it's not flat like, I don't know, probably 70% of the rest of Oklahoma is. Why are we putting it in the hills is my first question. And I've never gotten an answer from none of you, because y'all have been up there, all the rocks, the boulders, giant car-sized boulders, they're gonna have to cut out. Because
Seismic blasting.
you can't blast it, because then you're gonna ruin all those 4,000, 5,000 square foot homes. It's not right to do that to these people. What if it were in your backyard? It's not even going to be in my backyard, so it doesn't matter to me. I want my husband to be cured, but not at the price of this. Absolutely not. It's not right. And if you guys do this tonight, God bless you.
Thank you. This will be our last comment. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Krista Putnam, and I live at 6030 North Highway 97, across the street from Miss Judy Howard, and the proposed site is behind her house. I've written a statement and several emails since all of this started, but I wanted to ask a few questions face to face. If this is such an amazing opportunity for the city, then why are the people in the city not able to vote for it? I know I personally don't get a vote, even though my health and well-being are directly affected by the outcome, but shouldn't the good people of Sand Springs have a say in all of this? My next question is, a few weeks ago, I was asked and never answered, so it bears repeating. Why the rush to pass this? All of it. Why would you make such life-altering decisions with so little information about the long-term effects of human beings and animals? Why? As a parent, I've always told my kids to look at the good and bad of things, write it down, think it through.
Why are you all not doing this? Not really listening to our concerns? Don't our lives matter enough to you to make a step back and look at all the information before you make a decision? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now let me do this. Let me remind the council again that these are the issues we are considering in making this decision. Location and access, which is the proximity of roads and traffic. Zoning district details, which is the applicant is requesting light industrial with a PUD, so comments about the zoning and use are appropriate as they relate to this location. Impact on surroundings, assess visual impact, buffering, noise, odors, and potential effects on nearby residential commercial zones requiring of setbacks for enclosed operations. Infrastructure and utilities, which is the availability and capability of roads, water, sewer, and energy are all relevant. Local regulations and permits, requirements for building height, fencing, security, and how these issues are all addressed in the PUD. I think the applicant answered most of those things. Does anybody have any questions or comments from the council? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of ordinance number 1442. Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of ordinance 1442. That was a motion by Stuckey, second by Jackson. Any further discussion? Dennis, would you please call for a vote?
Counselor Stuckey?
Yes.
Counselor Jackson?
Yes.
Counselor Byrd?
Yes.
Mayor Spoon?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Worrell?
Yes.
Counselor Barnett?
Yes.
Counselor Wilson?
See you in November. Okay, so, motion carries. Do I hear, the next item is item B, emergency clause. Do I hear a motion? Have a motion by Byrd. Do I hear a second? A second by Worrell. Discussion? Please call for a vote.
Counselor Stuckey?
Yes.
Counselor Jackson?
Yes.
Counselor Byrd?
Yes.
Mayor Spoon?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Worrell? Counselor Barnett?
Yes.
Counselor Wilson?
Next item is resolution number 26-12, the comprehensive plan amendment. Approval, denial, amendment, or revision of resolution number 26-12. Do I hear?
For approval of resolution number 26-12.
Second.
Motion by Stuckey, second by Jackson. Discussion? Call for a vote?
Counselor Stuckey?
Yes.
Counselor Jackson?
Yes.
Counselor Byrd? Mayor Spoon?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Worrell? Counselor Barnett?
Yes.
Counselor Wilson?
See you in court.
Couldn't hear. Wilson voted no, correct? So 6-1. Okay. That concludes the meeting for tonight. I will call for adjournment. Recall.
It's okay, we'll have your jobs much longer.
Get a quick reaction.
Yep.